Hey, all right, welcome back to Raff's Brain, a show about things that are interesting to me. I am your host, Rob Rafferty. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, it's episode 1, Mountain Mama Recap. Today is August 15th, 2024. Let's go. But first, a quick disclaimer, a quick reminder. Hey, folks, just because something is interesting to me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be interesting to you. But that's okay. Variety is the spice of life. I appreciate that you're here. Let's roll with the punches. Let's have fun with it. Let's get to work. All right, here we go. What's on tap for the episode, you ask? A lot of content today we're going to get through in a short period of time. First, stats, the weekly stats, an overview of the performance metrics from the last episode and related content that I've been pushing out. Then we're going to jump into my stories of driving across the Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia driving, some windmill action that I encountered on the way. I'll introduce you to me, Padre, a.k.a. JC Rafferty, the man, the myth, the legend. My father, a wonderful man, and someone I hope that I can bring onto the show in a more formal interview capacity at some point down the road. I'll tell you a little bit about the junk food face-off that I experienced in my father's pantry while I was home for the weekend. I'll tell you a story about the insect rescue squad. Yes, this manifested during a visit to my neighbor's pool. Kind of a fun little nugget that I want to share. I'll do a quick review of a movie, Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's latest, greatest release. I'll talk about my hangout with my buddies from back home, Code H and Nate Dogg. Then I'm going to ask the question, are you ever too old for an AP? And what is an AP, you ask? Oh, yeah, that's a teaser. Wait and see, folks. Wait and see. And finally, we'll wrap it up with a little update on my Moving Picture Institute writing workshop. Yeah, that's been a blast. And it's coming to a conclusion, and I think I'm going to have to make that the subject of some future content because we're having a lot of fun there. Of course, we'll also talk about what's on the horizon. I got the Banjo Man action coming up. I got some big B-Day plans in the works. A lot to cover today. I'm very excited to share it with you. So let's start off with the stats. The stats, yes. Folks, I'm very transparent here at Raff's Brain. I want folks to see where we are relative to where we could be, which is, look, everything great starts off small, right? And I'm on YouTube video, I'm on YouTube podcast, I'm on Buzzsprout, which pushes it out to all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, etc. And I've also produced through these extraordinary AI tools, little micro clips of the video to push out on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. So what's the upshot here? What are we looking at? Episode 0. The relaunch, the rebrand of Raff's Brain, version 4.0, has 20 views on YouTube, has 10 listens on YouTube podcasts, 14 downloads on Buzzsprout, 55 views of the 5 shorts that I created on YouTube Shorts, and 298 views on TikTok. Yeah, TikTok's a great platform. I love that platform. I really hope it doesn't get banned because I find it so entertaining. The question is, do my clips actually drive traffic? I think the answer is no. I mean, I have 298 views and 6 videos, little clips of my video podcast up there on TikTok. I don't think that's driving a lot of traffic to the show. But I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep doing it and experimenting, testing, learning, seeing what works. Overall, I think we're off to a great start. Keep in mind, I haven't aggressively promoted this. I haven't emailed the 15 or 100 or 2,000 folks I have this email list. I'll get going on that. Once this show starts to take shape and I get more confidence week after week, step after step, brick after brick, as we build this empire of greatness, of insanity that is Raff's Brain, I look forward to seeing those numbers skyrocket or not. You know what? We'll see. Bottom line is, if you're here early. If you're one of my listeners right now, you are I can probably count you on my hands and toes. I have all my hands. I'm on my fingers and toes. I mean, I have all of them. So that would be 20. Maybe there's, who knows? Anyway, thanks for being here. Oh, yes. And then hot yoga problems. So in case you missed it, and I think many of you did, I'm going to be releasing these little one-off segments on the Raff's Brain podcast platform, just in audio format. That is sort of rambling thoughts of an insane lunatic. That is me after the culmination of a hot yoga session at the local studio, about 10-minute drive from my house. On the way home, I just click record on my phone in the car, and I just let it rip, and I share some thoughts and ideas and things that are whirling around my brain on the ride home as it relates to hot yoga, one of my many passions in life. That show is out. I'll be dropping episodes a couple a week because I basically go to yoga 3-4 times a week, and I'm trying to make a commitment to record an episode of Hot Yoga Problems every time I come home. But right now that has just 9 views on YouTube, 9 listens on YouTube podcasts, and 5 downloads for Buzzsprout. Anyway, maybe it'll take off as it gets its niche audience. We'll see. Moving on. Yeah, driving from Arlington to Buchanan, West Virginia. If you put that into Google Maps, you're going to get a couple options. You're going to get what I would call the standard option, which is the traditional option, which is the option that I think is kind of the safe approach. If you like highways, you're going to go up 270 to 70, 68, through the Cumberland Gap, hit Morgantown, then roll down South 79 to my hometown of Buchanan. But I'm telling you what, man, if you just have a little bit of courage, an ounce of gumption, I would really encourage you, if you ever make that trek, which I don't expect many of you will, to go across the mountains, baby. Cut through Moorfield, Blackwater Falls, Thomas, Davis, Elkins. Yeah, this is some serious mountain driving, I'm telling you. And it's, the funny thing about it is it's shorter to go that way. Now, that's all dependent on whether or not you get stuck behind a coal truck, because there's a lot of 2-lane roads, man. By that, I mean like single lane, one way, the double line, twisting and winding around mountains. If you get behind a coal truck or a timber truck or a slow driver, a farm, a tractor, you never know what you're going to encounter out there, trust me. That can considerably lengthen the journey. But I think it's worth it. It only happens once every, 20 or so trips that you're going to have get behind a real slow poke. But yeah, it's a great journey. It's a lot of fun. I've come to know it well, having lived in the Arlington, D.C. area here in the greater part of 23, 24 years. My gosh, I've made many journeys across those mountains, and I do greatly enjoy it. I highly recommend it, particularly in the fall. Ooh, the foliage is going to be... I'm going to go back in the fall trip. I'll take some pictures and share it with you. One of my favorite things about this trip is also stopping in Moorfield. That's the halfway point, roughly, about 2 hours west of Arlington, and you can hit up a Sheetz. Yeah, baby, Sheetz, the ultimate pit stop. And this particular Sheetz on this particular trip, I was motivated to snag a 2-gallon jug of unlabeled water. Where's this stuff coming from? I don't know, but it was only 99 cents. 99 cents! Dude, Aquafina is like $3 for a bottle. Dasani is, I don't even know. It's like double digits. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. But yes, what am I going to do? Am I going to spend $3 or $4 for filtered water from a corporate brand? Or am I going to go with the repurposed 2-gallon jug of water that it doesn't have a label, I don't know where it comes from, but it's only 99 cents. Come on, man. It's the right price point. You got to hit that up. They're probably filling it up with the garden hose out back. It has little, has a unique flavor palette to it. But I'm sure it's good for you. Got some minerals and vitamins and lead or whatever. Makes life joyous. I also picked up something else that's really great to get. Anytime you're in or around West Virginia, you got to grab a pepperoni roll. And there's so many options to choose from. The particular basket this time was something called Roger and Mazza's. It's like a local brand. There's so many different pepperoni roll brands and styles. Are you going for the flat pieces, the sticks, shredded? Some have cheese and peppers, blah, blah, blah. There's so many different varieties. It is a simple product, but like anything, there's... if you get into it, the more you dig, the more complex it becomes. I'm a fan, just so you know, of shredded or chunked or flat over the stick pepperoni. And I like it with some mozz, man. Mozza cheese, it's the best. And by the way, they sell these things like just off the counter. I'm not sure how long that's been sitting there. It's cold. Some people like to warm it up. You can pop it in the microwave. You could throw it in the car engine block for 10 minutes and hook depends on the circumstances. For me, I just do it raw, dude. I grab and go, and wash it down with that 2-gallon jug of water. Good times, good times. Now, as you're driving after Moorfield, it's, by the way, a highway most of the way. You start to see sprouting out in the distance these giant metal objects. What are these things protruding from the earth? As you drive closer, they start to take form, and you realize these are huge. These are massive structures. Yes, they're giant windmills. I want to tell you about the windmill action. As I was driving, I took some photos. I just think this is a fascinating, remarkable thing to see. And it's been there now, I don't know for how many decades, these windmills. And it seems like every time you go, there's more and more of them just dotting the horizon. But what I noticed is that, and this is true for every trip, this is without fail. And I'd be curious to hear if others have witnessed this or experienced this. If not, in the particular road I'm talking about, and other sites where you see windmills. Well, let me play a little video that I took here with my camera while I was driving. Let's see if this comes through the audio. Hopefully it'll work. Somebody explain that to me. This guy's moving. These guys are moving. What's up with this guy? I'm gonna post that on TikTok. You could check the actual video or watch it on YouTube if you're on the if you're just listening on the audio version of the show. But basically, I have a series of windmills cranking away, generating megawatts of power for somebody's toaster out there. And then in the middle of it, there's one windmill that just kind of gave up on life. He's not moving an inch. He's not budging. It's like he's just on a smoke break. What are you doing? What's going on? Is he just like one of those lazy bones colleagues that doesn't, these other dudes are cranking away. Meanwhile, this one guy in the middle of the pack. And it's like, you can't get away with that. It's too, I don't know. You can pretend if you're in an office and you have a lot of people around you and it's one of those places where the culture is just expecting you to work. Thankfully, I don't work in a place like that, but I have in my life experienced a situation where you got to kind of put in the appearance of productivity in work. So, you stay late, you clock hours, you like type at your computer desk, and you try to like put in a good presence and look. But this guy's not doing anything. This is like someone who doesn't even show up, doesn't even call in sick. I don't know, man. I'm confused by it. And I'll say sometimes I see the exact opposite, which really blows my mind. Sometimes I see none of the windmills churning except for one. And I'm like, yo, that is the atlas of windmills. Just the pressure of the windmill world is on that single windmill's shoulders. He's chugging away, cranking away to make sure that those kilowatts of energy are getting distributed on the grid. I don't know if you guys have seen that before. I'm curious about it. I wonder, it's just prompted me to ask questions. I might do a deep dive on windmills someday because I don't have a full understanding of why some would work, others wouldn't. Because presumably the same amount of winds blowing over the mountains, right? They're all there, kind of in alignment. I don't know, man. I'm just curious about it. I wonder what you think. And if anyone has any ideas for how I can dig into that, get information on it, let me know. The other thing I'll say is, just because I was listening to the radio on the way over, I happened to also pick up something very interesting in the news about windmills. This was unexpected. It was just this like confluence of good fortune. A story on WVNPR, which basically saturates the entire state. No matter where you are in West Virginia, you can get access to public radio. I don't know who was the mastermind behind that, but I'm telling you, it's like impossible to miss. When they do the call letter sign off, it's like Beckley, W blah, 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 Buchanan, W blah, 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 Colton, W blah, blah, blah. Like, my gosh, how many little small towns and cities in that state have access to public radio? It's pretty cool. Anyway, back on point here. Yes, I heard a story that blew my mind. It says basically that wind, I had to come back and Google it. I had to like make sure this was true. But yes, wind power has overtaken coal in America for 2 consecutive months. That's the first time that that's ever happened. I pulled up a little story about it. Wind outpaced coal and electricity generation for 2 straight months this past spring. Electricity generated from wind exceeded electricity generated from coal nationwide in March and April, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. The U.S. Energy Information Administration, that's a mouthful. USEIA. Let's just go with the acronyms because that's where we're from. Wind alone surpassed coal for the first time in April 2023. Did it again this year, but for the first time 2 consecutive months. Get this, folks. Wind and solar combined produced more electricity than coal in the first 5 months of the year. They did this last year as well, but the gap has grown wider. Look, I don't have a preference for any energy source in particular, to be candid with you. I'm like more like an above the, all what's it called? All the above strategy. Give me nuclear, give me gas, give me coal, give me tidal, wind, flatulence in a car that you can repurpose. Whatever works, man. I'm a fan of markets figuring this out. Well, I suspect there's been a lot of subsidies and other like shenanigans that might have positioned this story. But bottom line is, it's fascinating to me. I'm driving through the mountain state that, where people probably associate immensely with coal, and rightly so based on our history, but yet the country seems to be slowly but surely making its way more toward those sort of non-fossil fuel sources. Just an interesting nugget. And then, so speaking of the radio, on a Sunday, which is the day that I was driving, I can only listen to so much West Virginia public radio at a time. I got to mix it up a little bit, and I hit the scan, and you're driving through the mountains. You don't know what you're going to run into, but I'm telling you, any given Sunday, I did record a little bit of what I heard when I hit this particular station. Here you go.
My voice, and I'll lift my hands if you tell me to. Listen, if nobody ever tells me to lift my voice, and I feel like God wants me to give him a shout of praise, I'll shout till my vocal cords wear out. If nobody ever tells me to clap, and I feel like God wants me to give him a hand clap of praise, I'll clap my hands till my hands.
Well, yes, it was some old-time religion, my friends, and there were many stations out there like this. I don't know if it was like that when I was growing up. I don't remember. Maybe it's because I wasn't driving across the state as much. I was more hunkered down in my hometown. But it seems like there are a lot of religious radio shows as you're driving across West Virginia, and the tone and flavor is pretty different for any of them. That was an interesting one. It was more like fire and brimstone. Kind of got me fired up, I gotta tell you. So that was a fun little experience going across the mountains on a Sunday. I'm not sure if it's like that. Are those stations always playing old time religion sermons, or is it? I don't know. Do those churches have to buy time? Are those? I'm supposing they're somewhere in the state. I might do some research on that and come back with a longer term episode. Eventually I did make it home, and there's a picture of my house for those watching on YouTube. Knollwood is a little development out there, out in the outskirts of Buchanan, West Virginia. If you look closely, you can see my father in a seat. And if you look down from him, you can see the latest addition to our family, which arrived about a year ago. Yes, you're going to love the name. Jed. That sounds like a cool name for a dog. Jed. And it is. He's a black lab, and he's about 1 year old, which is still pretty wild, still pretty reckless. But Jed is short for something, which I think will reveal a great deal about my father, who named him. Jed is short for, what do you think? Jebediah? No, Jed, J-E-D, not Jeb. It's not like you didn't name it after Jeb Bush. Don't worry. It's not that. Jed. It's actually short for J. Edgar. Oh, you know where I'm going with this. J. Edgar Hoover. Yeah, my dad spent most of his career as an agent in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. Also served as a city police chief in Buchanan, temporary police chief in Elkins, 2 tours as a U.S. Marshal for West Virginia. The dude is straight up law enforcement to the bones. So you can imagine that I had a wonderful childhood. My civil liberties were always preserved and completely intact and never violated. I'm just kidding. Look, I had a great childhood. I love my parents, love my father. And we won't talk at a deep length on this at the moment, but he has recently become a widower. Sadly, my mother, Cynthia Rafferty, an extraordinary woman, passed away this past spring. And so that's why I'm going home more often. I just want to check in, stay in touch, help him out, see how he's doing. And he's making his way. But yeah, he's out there a lot in the front yard. I got a little video clip of him here throwing the ball to the dog. Has a lot of fun with that. Dog, he'll do this for hours. He just chucks the ball down the hill. Jed runs after it, brings it back. It's kind of like wash, rinse, repeat, hours on end. But this dog never runs out of energy, man. It's wild. Like, I'm guessing there might be other ways to entertain. We have an electric fence. Does anyone else have an electric fence? That is what an extraordinary innovation. We didn't have that growing up. We had all sorts of animals and pets growing up when I was a kid. I talked about that in my one-man show, What I've All Been Waiting For. Check that out. It's on my YouTube page. There's a specific story I told there about the pets of our family. We've had dozens and dozens of pets. It wasn't really until the last, 15 years maybe. Definitely after I moved out of the house that my parents invested in an electric fence. What a heck of an innovation that is. It totally changed. It's a game changer. Before that, we had a pen in the back. We would sometimes put the dogs outside in the pen or the dog house or the garage. You couldn't just let your dogs run around. We're in the country, man. There's deer. There's elk. Maybe there's not elk. There's deer. There's black bears. There's wolverines. There's not wolverines. Coyotes, snakes, rabbits. There's all sorts of game and wildlife is what I'm saying. And dogs go nuts for that. I can't tell you how many times we lost dogs for days. They just wandered off and they were chasing, creatures of the night, Abaguchi style. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, anyway, we have a dog. My dad's doing all right, hanging in there, living his best life. Now, when I got back, we head down to our neighbor's house. They have a very nice setup. This house, again, wasn't there when I was a child, so I didn't get to avail myself of its amenities, which include a really nice pool in the backyard. So they are, very gracious. They let me, my niece, my father, my sister roll down there, spend some time, had a great time. And that is what prompted me to want to share with you a little story called the Insect Rescue Squad. It's not a story in the truest sense. I haven't written it down. But I just want to tell you something that happened. And, it's whenever you're at a swimming pool, it's not uncommon. And this could be anywhere, by the way. And frankly, I think it does occur in almost any outdoor swimming pool you'll ever go to. Insects, it could be flies, mosquitoes, sometimes bees. They're just curious little critters. They want to, maybe they get thirsty. They want to go check out this body of water. It's not uncommon for beetles or other things to kind of or spiders sometimes. They fall into the water. They become victims of the pool. The pool is like a death trap for insects. And that's always been a little off-putting to me. The dead insect bodies just floating around, their corpses just lingering in the water for days, and maybe they get sucked into the filter. Sometimes they're just sitting there. Anyway, what this has caused me to do, and I don't know why, and it really didn't start until we built a pool in my own backyard, and I realized I don't want the pool in my backyard to contribute to this atrocity, to the decimation of insects. Therefore, I've made it a policy, as much as one can, that if I'm in the pool hanging out and I see an insect struggling in the water, I will aid it to safety. Now, to date, I've only done this in my home pool. I think it's a weird behavior. It's almost embarrassing, and it's completely different than what I did as a kid. As a kid, I had no concern for insects. I would smash them on the wall. If a fly comes around, I want to swat that thing and knock it out of the air, kill it. Mosquitoes, smack. I still smack mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are the one insect which I still just want to decimate. I just want to annihilate them. I'm not a fan. But other insects, I just feel like these innocent creatures have just landed in the water somehow, and they're struggling, and it's like, man, what a way to go. What a way to go. I can't let that happen. So this was the first time in a foreign pool that I flexed my insect rescue squad instincts. There was an ant, of all things. This is a funny thing. This is the first time I've seen an ant in a pool. It's just not common, I guess, or at least not in my experience. Not in my pool. So in this pool, there was an ant, a big black carpenter ant. And it's interesting. He wasn't like flailing about. He wasn't struggling. This was a smart little creature. This guy knew what was up. Somehow he fell in the pool and he realized, hey man, I gotta be chill. The water is a certain level of buoyancy. I'm light and I'm not breaking through the surface. So if I remain really calm and cool and collected and kind of curl up into a ball and just lay here, maybe the waves will carry me over to the wall and maybe I'll be able to climb up the wall. That's what I'm guessing is going through the ant's mind, although I don't know that they think at all the way that I just explained it. But whatever he was doing enabled him to be, I don't know how long he was there, okay? He might have been there for hours, days, minutes, weeks. But he was the only one. This is the other thing that was bizarre. Ants are rarely out alone, like navigating the world. They don't do that, dude. They have colonies. They have families. They have queens. They got to stay in packs, you know? And it was shocking for me to see this single ant in the pool. No other ants around. No other ants anywhere to be seen. So I don't know how he got here. But I was like, hey, man, I'm going to help you. So I took a leaf. Yeah, I don't touch the insects. That's a whole other thing. I'm not a fan of like creepy crawlies on me. I take a leaf and I give him a little boat to float in. But I'm not like going to watch him suffer and put him in the boat and then hope the boat makes to the edge of the... No, I'm not like that sadistic. I help lift him out. I put him on the concrete and let him like shake it off. And then he goes on his merry way. So why am I telling you this story? I don't know. It reveals a little bit about me and my personality. I don't know what that is about me. It reveals that I'm a weak human, man. Like, why do I even care about these creatures? I don't, in particular. I don't know why or what this means about me. And it's certainly not a behavior that I would have demonstrated in my youth, like I said. So at a certain point, I crossed a threshold where I started empathizing or weirdly with the struggling creatures in the pool, the insects. And so I just, what is up with that? Can someone help me explain that, what's going on there in Raff's brain? That would be a useful little insight. I should probably talk about it with someone other than strangers on a podcast. But that's where we are. Anything else about the insect rescue squad? Oh yeah, here's something I also thought, which is kind of fun. There's a lot of talk these days about timelines. What timeline are we in? This most recently came up in the failed assassination of President Trump. It's like, wow, imagine a different timeline. There's another universe out there in the world where the guy didn't miss. And so we're in the timeline where he missed. And I don't necessarily believe all this, but I mean, it relates to that concept of infinity, which if I start thinking about it too much, it makes my head hurt. I don't think humans have the capacity to really understand the concept of infinity, because what it might mean, if it's true, if the universe is infinite, that, yeah, anything is possible. There are various versions. There are infinite versions of you, and that means there are different timelines or versions of you out there. I don't know. This is all super, late night party talk stuff. Like a freshman year in college, this is the philosophy hour. How many versions of you are out there in the world? Anyway, I just want you to know, if you buy into this timeline stuff, you are in the timeline where I save insects like it's my job from a swimming pool. And that could have immense, like, butterfly effect consequences on the universe and ultimately affect your life in some monumental way that we'll never understand. There's another version of Rafferty out there that doesn't give a rat about these insects in the swimming pool. There's probably a version of me that would just dunk all the insects. I might actually aggressively go with a little net, one of those little mosquito nets, and just go and get as many insects as possible and drown them in a giant body of water. And that is all I do. It's my existence. That's not the timeline we're in. We're in the timeline where I save and preserve and protect and defend the innocent insects that fall prey to human bodies of water, swimming pools. And I take pride in that in a weird way. I don't know why. Moving on. Junk food face-off. Yeah, so my dad has a pantry stock full of trash food, and he does his best to populate that with new items in anticipation of his son's arrival, because he knows I'm a junk food fanatic. And where did I get it? Come on, let's be honest. You get that from your upbringing. My mom was a pretty healthy eater. My dad, not so much. We had that in common. He probably handed it down to me. Big Macs, French fries, potato chips. Yeah, that's a staple in the Rafferty household. But here's something that was new I had not seen. Usually my dad was a bagged chip guy. Historically, it's Lay's, it's Utz, it's Mr. B's. There's all sorts of varieties, and I'm a big fan of Mr. B's, old school, like the coconut oil or whatever, sunflower oil version. Man, they hit so nice. But I'll just dominate any chip, any day, anytime, anywhere. And I'm familiar with canned potato crisps. The most popular version being, of course, the Pringle. I'll house a can of Pringles in no time. I like how they make different size cans. Like they get these little mini cans. Like, is that a single serving? Come on, what are you talking about? A can is the serving. The serving size is the can. That's just that's my experience. But here's what happened. I walk into the pantry looking for some snackage, and I see 2 cans of different types of potato chips. And this is first of all, Dad, why are you buying canned potato chips? It's not normal. I've had my Pringles in my day, but we were just never a Pringle canned chip family. We were always a bagged chip family. So I don't know where he, switched it up. He just said, man, I don't eat as many chips as I used to. And, the cans preserve them better. I guess that's true. Like they have that lid that you can snap on. A bag of chips, you can use those little bread clips or whatever. Clothing pin or paper clips, whatever you use. But it probably does last longer in the can. So that's what he said. Look, I don't need enough of these things to justify having the bag. The bag goes stale. That's a waste. So I'm a can chip guy. Okay, welcome to the new household, Raffety. Welcome home, son. Things have changed. So I'm down with it. But what I was surprised to see was that he had a Pringle can and a can of something called Lay's Stacks. Has anyone heard of this product? I have to confess, I may have seen it. I may have come across it in the supermarket snack food aisle, which I frequent on a regular basis, but I never touched a can. It never occurred to me that I would even consider buying it. Because if I'm going to buy canned potato crisps, I'm going to get Pringles. Like Pringles is the dominant force. I did a little Google on this. They were invented. When do you think Pringles were invented? Actually, let's do a little audience interaction. What do you think? Take a second. Think it through. When were Pringles invented? How about before or after 1980? What do you think? Before. How about before or after 1970? Are you sure? Yeah, it's before. It's actually 1968, I think. Maybe 1963. Definitely the 60s. Pringles come on the scene. And they just take the world by storm. They've got to be locking up the dominant market share of canned potato crisps. The Lay's stacks are more of a newcomer, although they've been around longer than you would think. What do you think their origin year is? How about on or before or after 1990? What do you think? Are you sure? After. How about before or after the year 2000? I know it's a tough question. What do you think? Before or after the year 2000s? Yeah, after. That's right. Before or after the year 2010? Are you absolutely sure? Is that your final answer? Yeah, it's actually before. 2003, Lay's stacks come on the scene. So Pringles versus Lay's. Ultimately, what I'm getting at here is a showdown of these two potato crisp products. Now, just without any knowledge or background or context, what do you think is the superior crisp? Answer the question right now. Say it out loud. Pringles or Stacks? I'm going to bet you said Pringles. You got to go with what you know. Frankly, I would be shocked if many of you ever had that a Stacks ever touched your precious lips. I'll be shocked if you're even familiar, if anyone out there even knows this product exists, let alone eats it relative to a Pringle. And that was my mindset going into this. But I said, I'm going to do a taste test. I'm going to have a junk food face off, and I'm going to learn something, and I'm going to draw the line here. We're going to figure out. Now that my dad is a committed canned chip buyer, I want to make sure he's getting the superior canned chip item. And of course, going into this contest, I'm like, yeah, Pringles are going to just win hands down. There's just no question about it. Right? Lo and behold, I'm going to tell you folks something that I never would have possibly imagined in all my time as a junk food evangelist. And I want to be very clear about something. What I'm about to say does not mean in any way, shape, or form to disparage the loser of the junk food face-off. I will eat either item anytime, anywhere. But, friends, brainiacs, I got to tell you, the Stacks are money. Oh my goodness. Here's the thing. I was shocked. They are a little thicker. Not just a little thicker. They're like notably thicker, crunchier, saltier. There's just more substance to it. And I was shocked. Pringles are thin. They fall apart in your hands. They fall apart in the can. Sometimes you reach your hand in there and you pull up half a Pringle because it broke. They're very delicate. They're very dainty. So it depends on your mood. I could see myself preferring a thin wafer type crisp like a Pringle on occasion. And I like how you can stick it in and like almost let it just like dissolves when you could take a Pringle. It's perfectly sized for my mouth. I don't know if this is true for anyone else. I bet it's like they probably did take measurements of the average American's mouth and they crafted the perfect chip to fit that size. It's like it fits right on your tongue. You close your mouth and then it kind of melts. It disintegrates upon the contact with your saliva. The fat, the salt, it swirls around and oh man, it's very, very good, but kind of mushy fast. There's not much of a crunch to a Pringle. I think we can all agree with that. And maybe that's the magic of the Pringle. I like it. I'm accustomed to it. I'm familiar with it. The Stacks is a crunch machine, dude. Chomp. You got to bite that. It fits your mouth, but it sits in there for a while, man. It does not disintegrate. You got to chomp. You got to break out some incisors on these bad boys. So yes, I'm here to tell you, shockingly, against the odds, against my judgment and all reason, Stacks won the junk food face-off. I told my dad, next time, hit the Stacks, man. Now, I will say this. There might be a moment where, and I haven't really dug deep on it, and frankly, I'm not going to say that either of these are my favorite snack food, but I'm somewhat familiar. If you go to see Pringles in a store, they have like so many different varieties now. It used to be like, I remember when the cheese Pringle came out, that was a big thing. Cheese dust was like laced on it. It was very tasty. Then barbecue, but they have all sorts of stuff now. It's like almost nonsensical, like olive oil, paprika. I mean, it's like, come on, man. keep it limited. This has to do with the amount of store space. There's a lot going into that. We're going to take a deep dive on that someday. The way that big brands diversify their products because they want shelf space. That shelf space is where the money's at. It's where it gets your eye line, your attention. If you have the greater shelf space, you squeeze out the competition. That's why we have 30 different types of Pringle flavors now. That's why you have like 20 different types of Bud Light. It's like Bud Light Lime, Bud Light Ultra, blah, blah, blah. It gets shelf space. This is a strategy that big brands use to squeeze out the competition because you can only have so much of one product taking up a row. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just heard about it. I probably should just ignore what I'm saying. The bottom line is they can't speak to the flavored versions of stacks. I would bet they don't have quite the diversity and variety of flavors that Pringles do. But if you're in a store, take a look. Let me know what you think. And I'd be curious to hear if any of you would have guessed or believed that Lay's stacks would win the junk food face-off. I never saw it coming. That is an underdog of the century, as far as I'm concerned. So my dad and I went to see the movie Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's latest, greatest feature-length film. I'm not going to review it. I don't have much to say. And by the way, I will reveal my bias. I like M. Night Shyamalan. I think I'm in the minority. But I actually would say I know other people that appreciate him. My father appreciates him. I think this guy is creative. He tries to tell unique stories. Does he always succeed? Maybe not. But I admire and respect his ambition as a storyteller. So I'm putting my cards on the table. When I saw the trailer for this movie Trap, it's all premised on a father who takes his daughter to a concert, and then the twist is, hey, the father is a homicidal maniac, and he's the butcher. I think that's his nickname, and he's a serial killer. And then the concert was a trap to catch the serial killer because they knew he was going to be there. There's a lot of plot holes, if you really scrutinize it beyond, surface level. But that's okay with me. I was in for a good story. Josh Hartnett, great actor. I thought it was a lot of clever facial features and subtleties that were kind of made it fun to watch. And then the directing and the camera angles were also very interesting too. There was a lot of like face to camera. I don't know how to describe this. There's probably a technical term for it, but like where your actors are talking into the camera. They're not breaking the third wall or the fourth wall, whichever. They're not breaking the wall. They're just it's a technique. I don't know. It's interesting. I hadn't seen it used that extensively, but it struck me and I liked it and it worked. So it was entertaining. And like every M. Night Shyamalan story, there are twists, and in this case, multiple twists. And I think it was that final twist. It was sort of like the Triple Lindy twist of how they knew that this guy was going to be at the concert so they could set up the trap. That was kind of maybe one twist too many for me. But look, I like this guy. I like his work. Is it a Sixth Sense level epic greatness? No. But guess what? Nothing else has compared to that. Some people might disagree with that. Some M. Night Shyamalan fans might say Signs. Maybe they'd say The Village. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's like Sixth Sense, and then there's a long distance between his next film, and that's crazy because that was the first big movie he made. When was that? Like back in the late 90s, right? I distinctly remember seeing that in the movie theater with my father. And after we left the theater, you could have knocked me over with a feather, dude. I did not see that coming. I see dead people. Hey, spoiler alert. Plug your ears if you haven't seen this movie yet, because you need to go see it. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but I mean, I think enough time has elapsed for me to reveal. Bruce Willis is the dead guy. The kid sees dead people. Bruce Willis is dead. Yeah. I didn't see that coming. When they reveal that at the very end, it rocked my world, man. And my dad too. We walked out of the theater together. We said, I didn't see it. And my dad's a smart guy. He's the FBI man. He's the investigator. He's always talking in the movies. He's like, hey, he's trying to like lay out his theories. Whenever there's a mystery movie or a murder movie, he's always letting you know if you're sitting next to him what he thinks. I think that person did it. Oh, this is the twist. Like he can call it within a pretty reasonable degree of accuracy. He's good about it. I respect his talent in that way. Neither of us saw the twist coming in Sixth Sense. Oh, the fun part about Trap with my dad was it's been on the, maybe out for a while, maybe in its last week of screening in my home theater in Buchanan. We were the only two people there. We had a private screening in a big theater, and that's fun because we could talk, and my dad's hard of hearing now. So we were yapping it up. Hey, look at that twist. I think this person did it. Whoa, I think it was very fun. So here's the thing about movies, and I'll tell you this. I'm not going to ever be a great movie reviewer because I respect anybody that can like coherently complete any creative project and put it to market like this. That takes courage, gumption, tenacity. It's a miracle that any feature film exists in some regards. There's so many things that are involved, so many people that contribute to the execution of it. It's remarkable to me. So I respect anybody that even makes the attempt. I'm not going to criticize. Why am I going to throw stones at somebody, man? I mean, no, I'm not going to do that. The worst I would say about any movie, if I don't like it, I'll say, hey, it just wasn't for me. It didn't connect with me. But more power to anybody else who wants to watch it. The thing about movies, though, to me, what makes a great movie isn't always the movie itself. It's more about the company you're with, the experience you're having, right? And so many of my favorite movies in life might not hold up in terms of critical acclaim, but man, do I have such great fond memories of the people I saw them with, the experiences we shared together before or after. And that is, to me, what makes a great movie. So in a sense, going to see this movie with my father was a great time. We had a blast. We chatted it up during the movie. We laughed. We had a good time. One thing I'll also say on the way out, which was really kind of creepy, and I never knew this, but it's not creepy. I think I had an assumption that it existed, but it was a kind of quiet night at the theater. We were walking out, and the kind of manager's door was open. You could see into the back room of the guy who runs the theater. And there's security cameras. Of course, some of them are facing out into the parking lot. That's common. You want to make sure that your clients and your clientele are protected. And in case someone gets robbed or the car gets vandalized, you want to have some footage. That makes complete sense. But I also I'm pretty sure I saw screens that depicted scenes of the insides of the theaters where we were watching. So even when the lights are out, they're like green screen type cameras, where I guess you could watch and see what's happening inside a movie theater. Now, thankfully, in my lifetime, I've never done anything nefarious in the movie theater. Maybe other than like picking my nose or something, right? But that's not a crime. I mean, it's embarrassing. I try not to do it. It's a dirty habit. I like that Seinfeld episode, like, it's just an itch. It wasn't a pick. But I can imagine some things going on in movie theaters that, might be a little under, not the sort of thing you'd want to share with the public. So I guess it's interesting, and maybe it's more like in case something bad happens, an assault or something else, they have a record of it. Maybe. I don't know. It kind of got me thinking. I bet most movie theaters out there are monitoring their audience. I don't know how I feel about that. But I also don't think I do anything that should be concerning. I don't do anything crazy. I don't like strip down to my underwear or do anything nefarious. So, I don't know. It's just interesting, and I'm pretty sure it's common. Oh, one more thing I think related to this is this idea of hooking people up to monitors while they watch a movie to check their heart rate, and their respiration. You can. And this is happening. I know it's happening. They're like doing studies on people as they watch various cuts of movies, and they want to make the most scary movie, and they want to elicit various physical reactions in the audience that suggest fear or anxiety or other emotional states. And I think it's fascinating that this is all taking place. Like, I want to be a part of one of those studies sometime. So if anyone knows anyone that runs those, hook me up, monitor me while I'm watching some of these movies. And that can, collectively, if we aggregate all this sort of customer feedback, it can inform the filmmakers, and that'll, I think, result in better movies. Maybe, I don't know. It's a thought. The science of filmmaking definitely is changing. But yeah, go see Trap, or maybe not. Catch it on streaming. I think it was fun. Let me know what you think. Oh, on the way out, I did note this upcoming movie, and by the way, it was advertised, a trailer. It's called Afraid. I took a picture of the movie poster in the lobby. Afraid, but yes, the AI are indented because we need to be afraid of AI. Meet Aya. Meet Aya. She's here to help. I mean, it's a Blumhouse thriller. It's a horror. You know what this movie's about. It's all about fear mongering. It kind of upsets me, man. It just seems lazy. Oh yeah, it's like Alexa or Siri. You know, it's a device that tracks and monitors you and starts to take actions in relation to your wants and needs and desires and that sort of thing. AI's out of control, man. We all got to be afraid of it. I'm not a fan of that. It's lame. Although I think it's like this. It's not that it's lame. It's probably going to be a great movie. Guess what? I'm going to go see it. I'm curious about it. I just think we've seen that story before, time and time again. People fear the new. We fear technology. And oftentimes, if not always, technology just wins in the end. So don't worry about it. You know, we always we imagine the worst case scenario for any new technology that comes on the scene, and we're going to tell stories about it. In retrospect, it's going to be hilarious because I think AI is going to do great things for the world. All right. I did hang out over the weekend with my good buddies, Code H and Nate Dogg. I've known these fellas since third grade. That's when I moved to West Virginia. Well, I know Cody since third grade. He was in Mrs. Cook's class with me. We were in a trailer for that class in the year 1983. And I think we built a robot together. It was just like a trash bucket. It wasn't like, you know, a mechanical robot. It looked like a robot on the outside. And we hung a tape recorder in it. And it played Michael Jackson Thriller album, I think, if I remember distinctly. Anyway, I'm not sure when I met Nate Dogg. I don't know if he was a third grade friend or more of a later, like intermediate to middle school friend. But the bottom line is, I've kept in touch with these guys my whole life. Now, yes, relationships ebb and flow, but whenever I'm back in town, we reconnect, we hang out, we throw a few back, and we have a good time. And, you know, we took a quick shot of that and sent that to another friend of ours who lives in the Asheville, North Carolina area named Johan. These are all code names, by the way. Code H, Nate Dogg, and Johan. I'm Raff, or Riff Raff, I think. I don't know what they call me. Probably just Rob anymore. But, yeah, we got to hang out, shoot the breeze. That was cool. Nathan has a house there near the hospital. The funny part about this evening was he lives on the top of a really big, steep incline. And it's not particularly well graveled. Look, Nate Dogg, I'm sorry to tell you, dude. It's fine. It works. It's functional. And any, you know, decent driver can make the way up there. I have a little crappy Subaru Impreza, and I was able to get up there no problem because I know how to drive. I drive a stick shift. I'm the man. I can do that. But it's just hilarious. We ordered a pizza from Domino's, and the delivery man had trouble finding the house at first, which was annoying. You could see his headlights down there. Oh, he's going by. Oh, there he goes again. But then once he did realize, I gotta gun it up this, like, what is it, a 60% grade? I don't even know what grades are. If you think about 45-degree angles, right? What's 60? Was it? It might be 60, Nate. Nate Dogg, can you do some metrics on this? Can you tell me what's the incline of your driveway? I don't know, but it's pretty steep. It's not like vertical, but it's more than 45. It's not 90, but maybe it's in between 90 and 45. Anyway, the upshot is once the pizza man figured out he's got to make it up this hill, he like guns it up this, spinning his wheels in the gravel, and he makes it up to the top, guns his, you know, it's just funny to watch that. And it was a scene, it was a sight to behold. We respect it. He got a nice tip, and he delivered it in 30 minutes or less. And we talked about this for a little bit. Do you guys remember when Domino's came on the scene. It was in the 80s. The idea of food delivery was a novelty back in the day, and we experienced it. It just unlocked such a fun evening of conversation about how unique our lives have been. The changes we've seen in our nearly 50 years of existence is uncanny. I think Gen X, more than any other generation, of course I'm going to say this, it's self-serving, but I believe it to be true. We are pre-digital era babies who were then sort of grew up into the digital world as like young adults. And that there's nothing like that. We're not digital natives like so many of these young punks running around today. We had to live a life without GPS. We're talking about this. When the pizza man's making deliveries in the early 80s, this dude doesn't have, Google Maps on his phone giving him directions door to door. How the heck do these people know where they're going? I mean, I understand even like navigating a small town like Buchanan. It has little areas. It's got downtown. It's got side towns. It's got Tenerton. It's got other parts. The college area. I don't know the names of these different little hoods. The hoods of Buchanan. But I don't really know. I can't navigate them that well myself. I mean, I can make my way around, but I don't necessarily know the street names everywhere. So somehow, people got around back then. How did they do it? How on earth did they do it, man? I think we are seriously in a better place with respect to getting from point to point if we have access to GPS. But the moment that goes away, if I don't have access to it, if my phone dies and I'm on a road trip, I think I know how to use a map. I got my orienteering merit badge. I could figure it out. But the idea that I'd be able to deliver a pizza to some dude's house up a 80% incline, I don't know. It's just interesting, right? It's all very fun. Cody's daughter came to pick him up, and that was cool. We chatted with her for a little bit. She's a soccer phenom. She's crushing. She's going to be a rock star in life, and I love to see that. And it's just like, man, we're getting old. It's such a constant reminder. Every time I see these guys, we have to just remind ourselves, hey, live it up while we can. Enjoy the time that we have here. It's only going to go faster and faster and faster. So yeah, we had a good old time. I always love hanging out with those dudes when I am back home. And I regret that I didn't record any audio of our conversation, but that might be something I do in the future. Break out the microphone or just break out my cell phone, hit record, and grab some of us yakking back and forth. Because we have some fun things I think we could share with the world and have fun with that. I have another question here. So pivoting to a story, the second or third day I was in town, my dad and I went out for dinner, and I kind of raised an interesting question. And this is funny. I've noticed it's only recently, I'm pretty sure it's only like the past 6 months. Whenever I go out, my dad has to get an AP. And what is an AP? I'm talking about Arnold Palmer. Yes, it's a drink. The golfer, the drink, synonymous. Half iced tea, half lemonade. But guess what? It's not necessarily half and half. I took a moment I took a few minutes, tens of seconds to search about what the heck the Arnold Palmer is. But my dad goes out, and when the waiter comes by, he's always like, I don't know, this must be the past 6 months. Every time, half and half, 50-50, Arnold Palmer. He doesn't like to say the word Arnold Palmer. He's like, can I have a 50-50 lemonade iced tea? Oh, Dad, you order an Arnold Palmer. No, I like a 50-50. Sometimes he gets 50-50 iced tea, half sugar, half unsweetened. But more recently, it's all about the lemonade and the iced tea combo. And I got to tell you, I'm just not a fan of this drink. I want to be. I aspire to be. I like separately lemonade and iced tea. Those are great beverages. I just don't see the appeal of mixing these beverages together. And the pictures that I see online look different than the ones that I see when we go out to eat. The ones online, it's almost like they're layered. They're very professionally put together. I think the ones where we go out in Buchanan, they just mix it in there. So it's already swirled around and perfectly concocted. But I want to review this Arnold Palmer as a beverage. It's very fascinating. In case you aren't familiar with it, and you can find this information on Wikipedia, the Arnold Palmer is a non-alcoholic beverage that combines iced tea and lemonade. The name refers to professional American golfer Arnold Palmer, who is known to often request this combination. Some attribute the invention of the beverage to the golfer. There's questions about that. It goes into the history. Bottom line, I just didn't know my dad ever liked Arnold Palmer's. I never ever remember him doing this until very lately. And so that's just it's a fun question. Like, are you ever too old for an AP? Are you ever too old for an Arnold Palmer? Well, my tastes and preferences change. So when I'm 76 years old, suddenly I find myself obsessively ordering Arnold Palmer's without end. I don't think so, but you never know. I think that's what I'm coming to learn, man. You never know what's in store in life. Just brace for it. Get ready. And maybe someday I'll be slugging down Arnold Palmer's with the best of them. The final thing I want to mention very briefly is, because I've been yapping a lot here already. I see almost up to an hour at this point. That's way too long. We're going to trim these episodes in the future. Don't you worry. The Moving Picture Institute, MPI. I'm in a workshop. I'm wrapping up a workshop with them. This has been going on really for the better part of the year. It started out with a screenwriting weekly gathering. I'm doing a comedy short. I don't want to get into it right now. I'll talk about it in a future episode, but it's very fun to revamp, revise, get tactics, tips, writing feedback on that from about 6 or 5 other creators in that first workshop. And then it led into a directing workshop. I did go out to LA for a few days this summer. We meet once a week. We're talking about tactics for direction, cinematography, all sorts of cool stuff. And it's culminating in my submission of a lookbook, a pitch deck, and script for a short film project that I'm basically going to propose to MPI. MPI, just for a little bit of context, and you should learn about this, is a really cool organization, especially if you're interested in creativity and art and film, and you might want to, submit your ideas to them as a possible partner. It's a production company and talent incubator that creates high-impact films designed to entertain, inspire, educate audience, captivating stories about human freedom. And that's pretty broadly defined. I met these folks many years ago. They actually supported, through a fellowship, the production through a small grant for my work, Cap South, the web series. So if you Google Cap South, the series.com, you'll get taken to a YouTube page where this is probably 2014, 2015 time frame. I got to do my little web series comedy show about life on Capitol Hill. That's how I first started working with these cats. I love them. I love what they're all about. I'm a big fan. I'm a beneficiary. And I'm really excited about the potential to pitch them and share with them this concept that I've been working on for a short film. And the process of revamping, revising, rewriting is remarkable. And it just keeps changing the story idea that I have. And again, I won't get into it too much at this point. But stay tuned. I will do future episodes because my pitch deck is due on September 20th, I believe, about a month from now. I'm going to share versions of this as it comes into fruition on the podcast and other platforms because I want to get user thoughts, feedback, input, and kind of build some interest and buzz about the story and concept in advance of whether or not it even gets made. But I'm going to have fun with that. So that's good stuff. It's happening. Stay tuned for more. Now, looking ahead very briefly as we wrap things up. Yes, 2 things I want to let you know is coming down the pike. Is it coming down the pike or coming down the pipe? I always get those confused. I think it's coming down the pike, like a road, like a carriage and wagon and horse and wagon. They're coming down the pike, But for some reason, I hear a lot of people say coming down the pipe. Like water's coming down the pipe. It could be both. Anyway, what's coming at us? At me in particular, and potentially you if you ever listen to this show again. I got some future content streams. Banjo time. I got to come up with a better name. But yes, I was gifted a banjo by my father probably 25 years ago. It's been just sitting dormant for most of that time. But I dusted it off. I'm getting it restrung, all tuned up. I'm going to learn how to play the banjo. I'm going to document that process. And I think within a few months, I'm going to be adequate And then within a few years, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to maybe find some friends to play music. We're going to adapt 80s songs and maybe some 90s songs into country bluegrass versions. I can't wait. This is an idea. Whether or not it manifests, who knows? But yes, that's going to be happening. The second thing is, I kind of mentioned this in my first episode, but I want to do something for my birthday this year. And I think what that's going to be, I don't want to make a commitment yet, but I think it's going to be a live stream show on YouTube celebrating what will be my 49th birthday. Just a little context. I did work on this big idea for a show last fall that was going to be a live performance, the Big 4-8. It all got caught up in my mother's cancer diagnosis, and it got derailed. And I had made a lot of progress on it, but ultimately couldn't pull it off. But I think the idea is worth revisiting. And maybe rather than an in-person experience, I could produce something that's a live stream event to celebrate my birthday and some thoughts and reflections on turning 49 years old. So that's an idea. That's on the horizon. Stay tuned for more great content. That's it for today's episodes of Raff's Brain. This is way long. 105 minutes now we're pushing. I don't aspire to do that, but I just had a lot to share. I had a lot to get out of my system, apparently. I still have my call-in line. No one's called that yet. I don't suspect people will for a while, maybe never. But if you're interested in sharing a thought, an idea, an audio clip, it could be a fake voice, it could be authentic. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to get some audience engagement here, and I like the idea of it. So ask me a question, pick a topic, make a statement, have fun with it. The number is 571-408-8058. 571-408-8058. Give me a call. Leave a message. Maybe I'll use the content. Maybe I won't. Who knows? It's just one of the ideas I'm pushing out here. I'll continue to do that for the foreseeable future, and maybe one day someone will give a call. Hey, this is an open opportunity. Let me say something real quick as we wrap this up. I want to acknowledge something here. I want to acknowledge something. If you're listening to this show right now, you are early. Now, I don't know what you're early to, but I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. Because to the extent you're listening, you're investing your time. Maybe I'm bringing you some joy, entertainment, levity. I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm grateful for you receiving the content. And if this project grows, maybe over years, over decades, you can say I was there. And I will always respect and value you above all else. The brainiacs, the OGs, the people who are there from the start. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Raff's Brain. It's going to evolve and grow and change over time in ways that no one can possibly imagine or anticipate. So stay tuned for that. And hey, just letting you know, you could be the first caller to the show. That could become legendary. Or not. You never know. 571-408-8058. Give me a call. Leave a message. Be the first caller to the Raff's Brain podcast. The show about things that are interesting to me, Rob Rafferty. Thanks again for listening. Have an exceptional day. See you next time. Bye-bye.